Welcome to the ABCs of measuring which social media efforts work and which don't. My name is Chris Mercer. I do go by Mercer, and I'm the co-founder here at measurementmarketing.io. And of course, we want to welcome our social media examiner readers. Love having you here. What we're going to cover today is, number one, why is it even important to measure results? I know it sounds intuitive that you should do that, but we're going to talk about some things that maybe you haven't quite thought about. We're going to talk about the one Google Analytics report that I think masters them all. And this is the one that you also want to master. So this is the one report that I think you're going to get the most out of Google Analytics if you use it properly. And we're going to talk about how to actually tag your traffic sources. That is, tag your social media efforts so you can tell which ones are working, which ones aren't. All right, first, we're going to talk about the 5 pillars of measurement marketing because they come into play here. First is planning, and that is really thinking about which questions are important to ask and what answers you need to get and what data you're going to need to measure. For example, if you want to know if Facebook is working or if your Twitter is working, you need to be able to first think about those questions, right? Asking that question of itself. Then you have to go about building out the tagging so you can tell what is Facebook traffic and what is Twitter traffic. That's where the building comes in, and you're going to use tools like Google Analytics to do that. Once you have all of your information collected, then you move into Google Analytics or other sources like Data Studio or spreadsheets. But in this case, we're going to show you how to do it with Google Analytics, and you can pull up a report that will easily and quickly show you which traffic sources are working, which ones aren't. Then once you know that, once you have your benchmarks, you can move into forecasting, and that's actually predicting out what your future results are going to look like, and then you measure against your actual traffic. So you take your forecast and you decide, okay, here's what I think is going to happen. Here's what actually happened. And that will allow you to get an idea of where you should optimize your customer journey. All right, without further ado, let's jump into it. The ABCs of measuring which social media efforts work and which don't. First, why should we even measure? Well, this is, I think, a really great image to think about when you do that. You need to know where you're hitting the mark and where you're not. There used to be a saying in goal setting that if you don't have a goal, then you're obviously never going to be able to hit it, right? You're going to hit every single goal that you aren't setting. Well, in this case, we're trying to hit the bullseye every time. But you see in this image, there's all sorts of marks that are a little bit of everywhere. Most of them in the bullseye, but there's some that are outliers in the blue and the red. And you need to be able to measure that. So if you want to improve your skill, in this case with archery, but let's talk traffic sources, we need to know where we're hitting the mark and where we're not. Where did that Facebook campaign work? Did it hit the bullseye or did it end up in the blue? And that's really why you want to be able to measure results. Now, you might be thinking about your traffic like this, where you've got Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, maybe YouTube or other social media sources, and they all sort of funnel into content and then they trigger some sort of completion, whether they become a lead or a purchase or whatever the thing is that you're trying to accomplish with that traffic. And it makes sense. This is how you would think about it. But what I would challenge you to think about is measuring it like this, because it's not just Facebook traffic, but there are paid ads you're doing on Facebook. There's shared posts you're doing on Facebook, and maybe posts that are in a certain group versus your page. With Twitter, it's the same thing. You can split up the stuff you're doing paid versus maybe the more shared or unpaid stuff you're doing. With LinkedIn, with YouTube, you can actually track which specific areas of YouTube are they coming from. Are they coming from the cards? Are they coming from on the back end? Are they coming from your description links, right? There's lots of different things that you can do to track, not just that they're coming from a particular traffic source, but the actual specific traffic source within that traffic source. So in this case, paid Facebook versus shared Facebook. And then how does that convert into content and ultimately into your completion goal? And that's why we want to measure. We want to measure the specifics. That's how you can tell if a specific Facebook campaign is more in the blue area of the bullseye versus the yellow area of the bullseye. All right, so let's jump into the report where you're actually going to see all these details. So this is the report. We call it the master report for a couple of reasons. One is because you need to master this report. You don't have an option. This is absolutely, if there was only one report in Google Analytics that I could choose and to keep, and the rest of them went away, this would be the report I would keep. So you need to master this report. It is not an option. You have to get familiar with this report. It is that useful. And the other reason that we talk about it as the master report, because it really is. It is that one report that if you master it, it will help you to master all of the other reports. It becomes the master of all the other reports, and it makes the information a lot more useful. So that report is called the source medium report. And this is what it looks like. This is a little screenshot of what it looks like. Now you've got different sections here. So this first part of this report, and I will show you how to find this. I'll show you in just a moment here. But the first part of this report is the identity. It identifies the traffic source, called the source and the medium. So in this case, the branded source of traffic and where it's coming from. So you've got Google Organic, Direct None, YouTube, Referral. Then you've got the quantity of the traffic, and it'll tell you the number of users or sessions that you've got coming from that particular traffic source. After that, you've got the actions that people are taking. And this kind of gives you an idea of the quality of traffic. So when you have your quantity and your actions, you can kind of get an idea of the quality of the traffic. So you might have a particular traffic source that gives you a ton of traffic, but they really don't take the actions you want. They come to your page and they leave really quickly or something along those lines. Whereas maybe you've got another traffic source that doesn't send you a ton of traffic, but they really do engage with your message and your content. Obviously, that's going to be a little bit higher quality. So that's sort of what you think about in terms of your traffic quality. And then ultimately, the results, right? That's what we're all here for, is to measure for results. So what you would do is you set up goals to measure things like leads or purchases, e-commerce, things along those lines, and you actually start to measure for specific results. Now you've got in one report, in one screen here, you've got the identity of the traffic source, you've got how much you're getting from that traffic source, you've got what they're doing, how they're actually engaging from that traffic source, and then you've got the results of all of those different actions that are happening. So in one report, that's why this is so, so important. Okay, so let's go take a look at the source medium report. We're going to pull up analytics here. So when you come into analytics, you're going to go into the acquisition section. So in the acquisition, it's all about answering the question of where are my users coming from. That's acquisition. So we're going to go into acquisition. Then you go into all traffic. And then in the all traffic report is this special report called source medium. So we're going to click on source medium, and here you go. So you can see there's the source of the different traffics, the source and the medium here coming through. And again, I'm going to define source and medium. So source really is more about the brand of the traffic that's coming through. And the medium is, you can think of that as the type of traffic. And we'll come back to this in just a little bit here when we talk about tagging traffic. But you've got Google Analytics here measuring the brand that they're coming from and the type of traffic that is coming from that brand. So in this case, the brand is Google. The type of traffic was organic. The brand here was Google again, but the type of traffic this time was CPC, which would be paid traffic. There's a brand of partners, and then it was affiliate traffic that was coming through. There's the brand of YouTube.com, and then it was referred from YouTube.com, which means they were on YouTube and now they're on this particular site. So that's how that works. That's the identity. The acquisition, again, shows you users, new users, and sessions coming through. You've got bounce rate, where bounce rate, pages per session, and average session duration. This is where it's going to tell you the actions. So you can kind of get an idea of almost like a personality of the traffic source. So Google Organic, if we zoom out here a little bit so you can see it all. So Google Organic will actually show 50% bounce rate. You've got direct none traffic, which is your untagged traffic. You've got 40% bounce rate. But look what happened with this Googleplex traffic, 10% bounce rate. Now again, don't get caught up in the numbers themselves. They don't really mean a whole lot. What you get caught up in, what you look for, is the truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern. And remember that phrase, the truth is in the trend, the power is in the pattern. That's how you analyze this. And so what I see here, I see 40%, 40%, 50%, I see 10%, I see 13%. To me, what that says is regardless of what the number actually is, what this says is these particular traffic sources, in this case, the mail.googleplex and the sites.googleplex, they are more engaging. The audience that's coming in from those is more engaged. And you can also see that, kind of again, truth is in the trend, power is in the pattern. You can see that here with pages per session, 8, pages per session here, 6. The other one's 4, just about 4. So you can kind of get an idea like, okay, people are definitely more engaged. And if you look at time, average session duration, so time, 4 minutes. Time here, 4 minutes, but on these, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. So what this says to me, again, is you've got average engagement levels with these other ones, and then these two, numbers 3 and number 5 here, they are really engaged. Now, does that translate to results? So we can see in the e-commerce side of things, I've got 96 transactions for a total of 14,000 coming through. And then here, this one, not so much. So even though the engagement level was the same, and granted, there's not as much traffic coming through, so looking at the quantity as well, but it's still sending a decent amount. I mean, that's almost half the size, but I didn't get, this one sent me 96 transactions. This particular one only sent me 1. So it seems like this traffic source really isn't the best, doesn't work as well as this traffic source. And if I was trying to if this was YouTube and this was Facebook, I would want to put more of my efforts toward YouTube because this would be showing me better results, right? So that's a real general overview of how you would use this report, and hopefully you can see the power of this master report, the source medium report, because you can see again which traffic sources are coming in, how much of those traffic sources you're getting, and then what the actual actions users are taking, and ultimately what the results are for those users. And again, any goals you have set up, any e-commerce setup will be in this drop down here, so you can compare the different traffic sources for the different results. It is a fantastic report, and you absolutely must master the source medium report. All right, now let's talk about tagging your traffic. You saw back in Google Analytics in the source medium report how it said Google/organic. Well, that told you it came from Google and it was organic, that it came from a search engine. You also saw that it said youtube.com/referral, and then it came from YouTube, but it just somewhere from YouTube. Well, you can actually tag your traffic to give you more information around where your traffic is coming from. Wouldn't it be nice if you knew that it was the YouTube link in your description versus the YouTube link where they clicked on the cards at the end? Like, you can do that with Google Analytics as long as you properly tag your traffic. Now, this is the structure that you want to think about this as. So you have your product or service that you're ultimately promoting or sending traffic for whatever that purpose is. Then you've got the brands of traffic that you're using. You have the types of different traffic that those brands provide, like paid or shared traffic or organic. Then you've got the headline or your subject line if it's an email. And then you've got the details of the traffic source. And I'm going to show you exactly what this looks like in the real world here. So let's say I'm using Facebook to promote our product, which is the Measurement Marketing Academy. So I've got Facebook, I've got paid traffic. So it's Facebook as the brand. Paid traffic is the type of traffic. Know your numbers in this example would be the headline. That would be the headline of my ad. And then I want to put in there that I'm retargeting our blog readers. And in this particular ad, I'm using the laptop image. Now, why would I use and put in there the identifier of a laptop image? Well, let's think maybe I've got 4 or 5 different Facebook ads. They're all identical. They all have the same purpose, which is to send traffic to the Measurement Marketing Academy. They're all paid ads. They all have the same headline of Know Your Numbers. They all retarget blog readers, but maybe I'm testing different images. And I want to be able to see the different images and what the results of the different images are in my Google Analytics. So I might have one that's a laptop, one that's a graph, one that's a clock, or maybe even one that's got a big pile of money or something like that. Well, that image is where I would put the details of in my detail section here. I would put in that it was a graph image or a clock image or whatever, and that's where I would change it. And in Google Analytics, I will be able to see very, very specifically, not just what my Facebook traffic is doing, but what the specific ad did and what that type of actions that those people are taking from that specific ad. So it's a much, much more powerful question that you can ask when you start tagging your traffic. Here's an example with Infusionsoft. We use Infusionsoft as our email service. And so Infusionsoft is the brand. It is our brand of traffic from that traffic source. The type of traffic that brand is sending us is email traffic. And this trust your numbers would be an example of like a subject line. If we set that up in the email, the subject line might be trust your numbers. And in there, I can put in specific details about the link clicks that I'm getting. So in this example, new leads campaign, I can identify that it's coming from our new leads campaign, and maybe that it was an image that they clicked on, which had an image of a little survey. So I can tell very, very specifically, not just that they came from a particular email, but which exact link in that email did they come from? Again, not something I always want to know, but it's nice to know that I can. And again, both traffic sources all pointing, this is a very important point, all pointing to the same Measurement Marketing Academy product or service, right? So they're coordinated. And when you structure it like this properly, Google Analytics will be able to give you a lot better information as far as which traffic sources are working and which ones aren't. So let's take a look at how this works. In Google Analytics, it kind of looks like this. There's the campaign, there's the source, there's the medium, there's the term, and the content. So the campaign is your product and service. The source is your brand. The medium is just the type of traffic. The term is where you put in the headline or the subject line, and the content is where you put in all your different details. Again, kind of looks like that. See, that's what it would be filled in. This is the format. It's campaign, source, medium. This is what it looks filled in. Okay, you kind of get that pattern? Now, in order to get them into Google Analytics, you're going to use these UTMs. They're called UTM Parameters, and we're going to get into the technical bits in just a moment here, but that's really all this is. So the campaign becomes UTM campaign. The sources become UTM source. The mediums become UTM mediums, etc. UTM term, UTM content. And remember, this is just the same. It's this exact same structure we've been doing. So the campaign becomes your product or service. The UTM sources would be the brands. The mediums would be the type of traffic. The UTM term is where you're going to put the headlines or your subject lines for your emails. The UTM underscore content section, that's where you're going to put all the details that identify the specific ad or the specific link in an email that you're trying to track. So here's an example of how to actually do this. And we're going to use Facebook as an example. Use that Facebook ad that we talked about initially. So the source, the brand in this case is Facebook. So it's going to be UTM underscore source equals Facebook. Then we want to know the type of traffic, and that would be the medium, which is that underscore medium parameter. So it's going to be UTM underscore medium. And we're saying CPC here because that stands for cost per click. And in Google Ads, when you get traffic coming in from Google Ads, it'll automatically come through as the type CPC or cost per click. So we're going to say CPC. So we sort of match that. That's going to basically tell us up until this point that we know this is Facebook and that it's a paid Facebook ad. That's all we know, but at least we know those two things. Now the campaign. This is that UTM underscore campaign. This is our product or service. Now, in this case, we just said, well, let's make the Academy the campaign. Now, yes, our product that we're actually sending all this traffic to is for the Measurement Marketing Academy, but we're not putting in Measurement Marketing Academy because as a company long ago, we decided to say, okay, if we're sending any traffic to the Measurement Marketing Academy, we're just going to code it and say Academy. That's how we reference it internally, and that's why we put Academy here. And everyone knows if they're sending traffic to the Academy, it's just going to say Academy in UTM underscore campaign. That's the value that we're going to put there. So now at this point, we know the ad came from Facebook. We know it was a paid ad from Facebook because it's CPC medium. The type is medium of CPC or paid traffic. And now we also know the point, which is I wanted it to go for the ultimate purchase of the Measurement Marketing Academy. There's something else we can get, which is the term. Remember, that was the headline or the subject if it was an email that we were doing. So in this case, the UTM underscore term, that's the parameter that we use. We're going to make that equal to trust your numbers, which is the headline that we talked about in our example. It would be trust your numbers. And so now at this point, we know it's a Facebook ad. It's a paid Facebook ad because it says CPC. It's for the Measurement Marketing Academy because it says Academy. And we know the headline of the ad was trust your numbers. But wait, there's more. We can actually get additional details, and that's what we put into the UTM underscore content. And you can see here, we put this value of AUD-retargeting-blog and IMG-laptop, and we kind of connected that whole thing together. Well, this is just a mental reminder to remind us what this specific ad was. So now we know Facebook ad, it was a paid Facebook ad. It was a paid Facebook ad for the Measurement Marketing Academy. It was a paid Facebook ad for the Measurement Marketing Academy, which had the headline of Trust Your Numbers, and this was the audience of retargeting blog readers, and it had an image of a laptop in it. So that's very, 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 very detailed tracking from our social media using UTMs. Now, the way these go together is you would have your main links. In this case, I'll say it's the homepage or our homepage. And then I would just put in parameters, which is the little question mark, and you see UTM underscore source equals, and then the value, which in this case is Facebook. And then you do ampersands in between the rest of them. So that's how this looks. And then when you put them all together, it looks like this. So this is what I want to show you now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste out this link. So I'm just copying this little link here. That's all I'm doing. You can also try this at home if you want. So we copy and paste it, and I'm going to go into our analytics. So I'm set up in the Measurement Marketing Analytics right now so we can see this. And I'm going to go and I'm going to paste the link in. So I'm just going to paste this in. You can see here, there's my homepage, and then UTM underscore source equals Facebook. UTM underscore medium, it's the medium here, equals CPC. UTM campaign is Academy, et cetera, et cetera. UTM term, trust your numbers, and then the UTM content with the audience that we're retargeting the blog, and the IMG is laptop. So these are our naming conventions, our structure, so that we can tag our traffic properly. So as soon as I hit enter, our homepage is going to pop up. And now Google Analytics now knows, or in this case, we're faking it, so it thinks that we came from Facebook on this paid ad from Facebook with all these additional details around the ad and what it was for and everything else. So if I go to real time, just so I can show this to you, real time, you go to your traffic sources and we can see this in action. You can see right here, source Facebook. So if I click on Facebook, now I'm just looking at, there's my CPC. The source is Facebook. If I click on CPC, I get the additional details. Trust your numbers is the keyword, right? That's the term. My headline in this case that comes through those UTMs and is now sitting in my Google Analytics Why? So that ultimately it can come into my source medium report and I can start associating it to the different actions and how much traffic I'm getting from this Facebook ad and what the results of this Facebook ad are. So hopefully at this point, you're really getting a really good understanding of how important UTMs are. Now, we actually have a tracking tool that you have direct access to. You can see the link right here. It's at measure.tips/UTM builder. And this is a tool that will help you to keep your UTM structured. It'll help you come up with the different names and make sure it's nice and organized. And I want to show you this tool because it's really cool. We're particularly proud of this. And again, you have direct access to it. So this is what the tool looks like. When you come in there, just go to File and then make a copy of it, and then it's all yours. Most of what we have just talked about in terms of the UTMs and how to track them and how to define them, they're all in here. So you can see the branded source of traffic, the type of traffic it is, et cetera, et cetera. Then you come in here and you define those. What are the different sources of traffic you use? What are the different types of traffic you use? What are the different campaigns that you have as products or services? Then you just come into the tab you want. So in this case, Facebook CPC, and you can see, oh, okay, well, I want it to be Facebook, and I want it to say this is CPC as the medium. And you can start giving this to your vendors or to people on your team. And they have a nice simple drop down where they get to select and not mess up any of your tracking. Instead of calling it Measurement Marketing Academy, they can't call it that because Academy is the only option. It makes it nice and easy and helps to maintain the system. Then they just have to type in whatever the headlines are, because obviously those will change, and the details that were contained in the content. So whatever you want. But then as you type those in, and if I paste this over here, I'm going to put in the home page so you can see this. Once I put in a link here and I finalize these, I'm just going to copy these so you can see it. Instantly, you get the entire link over here. Click on that. It'll bring you to the page, and you can see the page load up with all your UTMs. So you would take this entire link, and that's what you link into your emails or your ads or anything else. Now, little pro tip with Facebook, if you're doing Facebook Ads Manager, all you need to do is you copy these out, just these, not that question mark, just from this UTM source on, take those and you copy those. And in Ads Manager, the way it looks is you have your website URL, this is what the actual page would be, and then you put in tracking parameters down here. So Facebook, it's a little bit different. You can see here some old ones that we had done before where UTM source was Facebook because that's the brand. UTM medium was CPC because that's the type of traffic. The campaign was for the Academy. And then the term in this case was free workshop, grow your business. And then the content, the headline was free workshop, grow business. And then the content here talked about, it was a Google Analytics webinar from February of 2018 that was targeted to desktop. That's why we have that in there like that. So that very specific tracking parameters, all those tracking parameters, very, very specifically, when somebody clicks on our ad, they all come through into our Google Analytics. And of course, from then we can go into our source medium report and see which identity it's coming from. We can see what specific ad is coming from. We can see what the actions are, how much traffic is actually being sent to us from that traffic source, and ultimately what the results of that traffic are. All right, so what's been covered? We've talked about why it's important to measure, because you need to know what you're hitting and what's working, and you need to know where you're missing the bullseye and what's not. And you can get very, very specific. It's not just about is Facebook or Twitter or YouTube working, but it's which specific section of Facebook is working for you. Is it the paid ads? Is it your group? You could UTM your groups differently than you UTM the posts that are on your page. So you can learn an immense amount from your social media efforts when you tag. And the reason that you're going to do that is because you're going to go into your Google Analytics master report. That is the source medium report. That's the one that you got to jump into, that source medium report. And that's the one that you are to master, because that's the one that masters all the other reports. When you get your tagging down right and you set up your goals, you can get immense, immense, immense value from that report. And ultimately, we just finished, of course, with how to actually tag your traffic so that you can really, really start to master your source medium report and measure so that you know which traffic sources are working and which ones aren't. Your next steps, go figure, is going to be tagging your traffic. So number one, review your source medium report. And what you're looking for is really which traffic sources could be tagged better. Chances are you're not tagging your email traffic. And if you're not seeing that there, go ahead and pop that into your traffic tags. If you see Facebook referrals coming through, but really you're doing a bunch of paid media on Facebook, maybe consider tagging your Facebook ads or your YouTube ads, maybe tagging description links in your YouTube ads, doing whatever you possibly can to make sure that that external sources of traffic, people that are not currently on your site, making sure that they are being tagged properly so that you can ask better questions of your source medium report. And then ultimately, we're going to be practicing using your UTMs, which traffic sources could be tagged better. Again, then you go back and use your UTMs, use the UTM builder to go ahead and plan out your tags and take advantage of that as well. All right, that is it and brings us to a close. Thanks again for watching. This has been the ABCs of measuring which social media efforts work and which don't. Again, a special thank you to our social media examiner readers who have come over and watched this video as well. Love having you here. My name is Chris Mercer, co-founder of MeasurementMarketing.io. Thanks again for watching.